on the future of SABLE. That's the Airborne Law Enforcement unit that covers southeastern North Carolina. The program is no longer going to fly helicopters, but that's not going to keep law enforcement grounded. For nearly 20 years, the Southeastern Airborne Law Enforcement program, better known as SABLE, has not only been law enforcement's eyes in the sky, it's provided plenty of protection along the coast. Utilizing 2 retired military helicopters, the SABLE unit has provided aerial support when it comes to catching criminals.
Okay, Central, he didn't make the turn.
Performed daring rescues and saved lives during treacherous storms like Hurricanes Matthew and Florence.
It was pretty tough.
And even searched for missing people from high above ground. The SABLE unit serves law enforcement agencies in 3 counties. But the helicopters will no longer take to the sky. For years, there have been discussions about moving away from the choppers. Not only are they more than 50 years old, requiring frequent and expensive maintenance, there are growing concerns about safety. In November, you may remember, one flight crew had to make an emergency landing at a public park in Wilmington because of a mechanical issue.
Being the professional that he is, determined that the best case scenario or the best thing to do was to find a location to land the aircraft.
While they may be less glamorous than the impressive helicopters, SABLE has used unmanned aerial vehicles, or drones, since 2018. Now the unit will fully switch over to drones moving forward. It's a decision made easier by the Wilmington Police Department and regional drone teams' success using drones.
You can have several drones on duty, at any given time, which vastly increases response time.
The modern drones can not only provide similar help from above, but also venture into buildings or burning structures without concerns about human safety. When it comes to heavy lifting, like storm rescues, SABLE will call on choppers from the National Guard or State Highway Patrol. Put it all together, and the public may not notice much of a difference. SABLE will protect and serve, and new technology will ensure that the unit's legacy continues to fly high for years to come. And next week, we're going to hear from Wilmington's police chief about the SABLE unit and how drones help keep his department safe nearly every day.